So President William Ruto is set to tour Mount Kenya, starting, is it tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yes.
And he's starting in Laikipia. And so the person who is among those who are going to be welcoming him is the woman rep for Laikipia, who's our next guest, and that is Jane Kagiri. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
This is where we fix the nation, one conversation at a time. We say it's podcast, it's broadcast.
Yes.
Make yourself comfortable.
Thank you.
And to make you even more comfortable is a quote, quotable quotes by Jano. She gives us a daily quote. And so we just see how does that really, we reflect on the quote, whether it makes sense to our today's situation.
Yeah, so oftentimes it's to do with something to think about, to reflect on. Today is sort of more celebratory community, and it says Eid is a time to come together, to forgive, to celebrate our shared humanity and the blessings we have. That was said by King Abdullah of Jordan back in 2017. So that's our quote for today.
A beautiful quote indeed. Of course, first I would want to thank you guys because of the good job you're doing. I believe, in fact, as I was coming here, I was watching something, and I was actually watching the guest who was here before me. And there's a segment where you brought in where everybody was coming in and saying what they're doing in fixing the nation. And for me, those are the people I would want to celebrate today. I would want to appreciate the blessing they're giving this country by doing the little that they can, in the small way that they can. That is what we are hoping our country will achieve. Yeah.
Hip, hip to our fixers.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
And you're the first fixers because you're the ones who came up with the program. Yeah.
Asante sana. Philo, you're going to put page 6 of the Daily Nation today. There's a photo there, a billboard, a photo there. But before we get into this conversation, Jen,
Yes.
there's a story that's been in this country for 13 years.
Yes.
And NTV revisited this story last night. It's a story of the unresolved murder of Agnes Wanjiru,
Yes.
a young mother whose life was cut short in 2012 by people who are believed to be British soldiers.
Yeah.
Despite public outrage and international attention, this incident has triggered in the last decade. No one has been held accountable. Last night, NTV spoke to the family, and they're still fighting for justice, and reports that the now teenage daughter of the slain Agnes find it hard to cope with the injustice meted on her. We've got a couple of people who were spoken to in that story, and we just want to play some of them and what they were saying. For example, Agnes' sister, Rose Wanyua, niece, Esther Njoki, and Mbio Mwangi, who's a family lawyer. Listen to what they were saying, and then we'll ask you about it.
Tunasikia vibaya sababu miaka 13 si kidogo, ni mingi. Jua mtoto alikuwa mdogo na sasa mtoto ni mtu anaenda akijua akielewa hii mambo yenye kulienda. Na unaona ikiletwa kwa TV hata hataki kuona. Anaondoka, anaanza kulia. Msichana wa Agnes anaulizaga kwa nini huyu mtu alimfanya mama yake hivyo. Ameshikwa. Mimi namwambia hapana, hajashikwa.
The hardest part in this whole saga is when I see Agnes' child crying because she has seen her mom's story being aired on television and no action has been taken. That is always my hardest time ever. Trying to console this child, telling her that one day justice will prevail, which we know why the reason why we have not been getting justice is because the government of Kenya and UK, it has been full of lies and manipulation to our family, telling us this is what we'll do, and they have not done anything.
Is a case whereby the government has been reluctant to have it concluded. I don't know the reason as to why. Maybe it is the benefits the government has been getting from the UK government, military aid and all that, and maybe our government does not want to rub the UK government hard enough to let these people come here for trial.
Tunasikia vibaya sababu miaka 13 si kidogo, ni mingi. Jua mtoto mdogo na sasa mtoto ni mtu anaenda akijua akielewa hii mambo yenye kulienda. Na unaona ikiletwa kwa TV hata hataki kuona. Anaondoka, anaanza kulia.
You've seen. You're seeing from the sister, from the niece, from the lawyer. This is a story that's been there for long. All right? So now you're in Parliament.
Yes, I am.
This matter, has it come up in Parliament?
It has come up in Parliament. In fact, sometime last year, I believe it was in October or November, the Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations was actually in Laikipia County, where we had public participation and engagements with Laikipians. Of course, the family of Agnes came up there. We, as the leaders of Laikipia, had actually demanded from the committee that they have to bring in this case as one of the requirements as we go into signing the new defense cooperation agreement between Kenya and the UK. The beauty about this case is that the defense and the defense cooperation agreement is actually approved in Parliament. So this time round, we have put in a demand as members of Parliament that the Agnes Wanjiru case must first be resolved for us to allow that cooperation to continue. Because as much as we appreciate that the British Army is doing a lot in our country, we must also appreciate that lives in Kenya matter, and our lives are a priority. We'd rather not do with whatever support they're giving us, but at least let's be sure that our Kenyans are safe. And of course, during those engagements, it was not only about Agnes. We have so many also other children who were born during the periods where the British Army have been training in Kenya, and these children have been left unattended. So these are some of the demands we are making, and these demands must be met. We cannot allow anybody to come from outside the country and treat our people just like the way they would want to treat them. That one would not allow.
Are you optimistic, though? Because 13 years on in her case, how much more do we need to step on the pedal to see something move so that it's not another 13 years?
Certainly, Janet, this is my Fixing the Nation opportunity, and I believe in our tenure we are going to ensure that justice is delivered to Agnes' family. And especially being that I know where they live in Majengo, Nanyuki, I know the case, I know the family. So these are people I will meet, and every other time they'll ask me, Jane, how far have you gone on the case? So this is something that is in my face every day. Okay. Yeah.
From a broader perspective, because you're right, there are also a lot of, there's Agnes's case, there's a lot of children born of rape from, say, the same situations. There's a lot of complexities, but then people say, oh, this is a diplomatic issue, this is that. Like, where does that line, where's that line drawn between diplomacy and we need to hold people accountable for crimes committed on our soil?
I think the issue we've been having was that, because of course the Foreign Affairs kept saying this, it has to be dealt in the UK, but as far as the committee is concerned, we are now demanding that it be dealt with in Kenya. They need to repatriate the person to our country so that he's held accountable, because the crime he committed on Kenyan soil. And I remember, I think it was 2 years ago, we were over a drinking spree. One of those guys mentioned that he's actually the one who killed Agnes. So I think that is impunity of the highest level, and that's something that will not allow them to get away with. Yeah.
Right.
The media in the UK has highlighted this story, like now that one where somebody in a drunken stupor started saying, I know how this thing happened. I know this is the guy who did it. I know how it happened, and sort of like they were bragging about it.
Yes.
And it was widely publicized, even in the UK, and picked up by the media in Kenya. And the demands locally have been, number one, repatriate this person so that they can be tried here in Kenya.
Yeah.
When the last Defense Cooperation Agreement was being signed, it was still an issue.
Yes.
And it went to Parliament, to the same Committee of Defense and Foreign Relations, and promises were made here and there that you're going to follow due process, that then the Attorney General of Kenya is going to start conversations with counterparts in the UK for justice to be done and the person to be tried here. It has not moved, Jane. It has not moved. It's still the same. When NTV reached out to the UK High Commission, the British High Commission, the spokesperson said the UK government is working closely with the government of Kenya to accelerate progress, and the UK's Defence Serious Crime Command and Unit are proactively engaged with the Kenyan police in support of the investigation. It sounds like English.
Eric, the committee brought it back up last year. You'd expect that because the agreement has been signed, we assume that all is well. They brought it back up, and they said they would send back the report to Parliament for us to report that what has been agreed has not actually been delivered. So this is not going to go down. We are not going to be silent on it, and the committee has given us the assurance that we are going to put them to task.
Are you doing anything outside of the committee to rally other members so that you have sufficient numbers that whatever the committee says, if it's not on demand that before we sign a new defense cooperation agreement, this suspect shall be brought into this country, to rally fellow MPs to vote on that front?
Certainly, Eric. And in fact, if you'd go to the Hansard, on the day that the cooperation agreement was being debated, almost 60% of the comments on that agreement were about Agnes Wanjiru, because we've made members aware and told them we cannot allow this to continue. So certainly, we have enough support in that house. And anytime a life is affected, I can assure you people are humane enough to know that everything else does not matter. We must first deliver justice to that family that lost a dear one under those very unfortunate circumstances.
All right. So we shall keep tracking this. NTV has highlighted it. We will keep tracking and checking what the committee is doing, what the leadership from Laikipia is doing, but not just Laikipia, it's just the entire National Assembly should be seized of this matter and do as it should. Okay?
Certainly.
Higher. Philip, do you have that page 6 of the Daily Nation? Because here it is, inside Ruto's tour, list of goodies for Mount Kenya. There's a big photo here. Billboard with a welcoming message features President William Ruto, DP Kithure Kindiki, and Madara MP Eric Omombi in Karatina town. It was there last week. It says Karibuni Mlima. As he's going towards Laikipia, he'll pass through Karatina.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So he'll see this billboard and he's going there. Now, why is this tour of Mount Kenya such a big deal, Jay?
Eric, it's good for us to tell each other the truth, that a lot has been said about Mount Kenya. So initially, first we were told that it's not going to be possible for any leader who is elected in Mount Kenya to go back to the ground. The ground literally means our constituencies or our counties.
Right.
That happened, we went back and we engaged our people. Then again, it was said the president cannot enter Mount Kenya. So here comes, our people are excited, they're waiting for the president, and so now the day has reached. But allow me to also correct that Laikipia is not in Mount Kenya. Laikipia is in Rift Valley, if we all remember our geography. But when it comes, allow me, Eric, to complete my statement.
Okay, go on.
What happens, and I have refused my people to be misled
Even
anymore.
Meru is in Eastern. But is it in
What happens when elections are near, or when votes are being counted, or when anybody is under siege and believes they need votes, they rush and call Laikipia Mount Kenya. The minute that is done, we are thrown back to Rift Valley and told to go look for development there.
Wow.
And that is why, even when you come to the Equalization Fund, Laikipia features as one of the beneficiaries of historical injustices. So it's good to state that anyway, when I was elected, the first thing I said, my slogan became it's Laikipia's time. So clearly, it's Laikipia's time that when the president is coming to the mountain, he's actually going to be starting with Laikipia. And certainly, we are excited. We are looking forward to that visit because I keep telling my people, and allow me to go back to the month of November when we had the impeachment. During that impeachment, my people asked me how I made my decision. And I kept telling them, when we were young girls and in primary school, you'd see one girl run to the toilet and we'd all follow. Not knowing whether you're pressed or not, just because there's an opportunity to run outside. When I've grown up and know that I'm in parliament, I realize I'm a mature woman who now needs to make decisions based on my individual level. So I remember when it came to the impeachment time, to most Kenyans, they thought it was an issue of an individual. But beyond that, it was a question of, do you want to remain in government or do you want to exit government? Those were the two clear questions on that day. And for me, I looked at the situation and I thought, here is somebody who is telling people to exit the government. I go to Nyeri because that's where my parents' roots are. Anytime I visit my grandmother's place, if I would want to step on mud, the choice would be within my grandmother's compound. Because the minute you get to her gate, tarmac starts there. When I was in class 6 and we'd go to my grandmother's place to help her collect coffee over the holidays, my grandmother would be cooking with firewood down here, but up there she has a bulb, which is black from the soot from the firewood. That means those are the years my grandmother was able to get electricity. Again, you look at water. We had never ever fetched water from a river at my grandmother's place because there was a tap right outside her kitchen where we would fetch water from. Today, I go back to my county of Laikipia. My people still have to walk 17 kilometers to get water. I look at my county of Laikipia. Out of 100% of the households, only 20% are connected to electricity. I look at the situation of tarmac. In 3,000 kilometers of road in Laikipia County, less than 900 kilometers are covered by tarmac. That tells you that is even less than 30%. So those are the scenarios I looked at. Then I remembered my people, and I must appreciate that one of these days, please bring in the feature of security restored in Laikipia. A few years ago on NTV, you'd always be running features of how there's a lot of cattle rustling in Laikipia, there's a lot of insecurity. Today, we are counting 2 years down the line. Our people have been secure, their cattle are secure, they're able to sleep from dusk to dawn, they don't have to be outside their houses manning them. So those are some of the things I appreciate that our government has done for our people. Again, unknown to you people, we have a lot of human-wildlife conflict where you plant, but it's the elephants that harvest your produce. Again, with the Kenya Kwanza government, we've been able to put up electric fences to keep the elephants in their place and allow our farmers to grow their crops. Those are the things I thought about, and I said, I must ensure my people remain in government because they need these benefits, and a period of 2.5 years is a long enough period for our people to benefit.
So you've almost spoken to, okay, you're verifying and validating why the government is working. We've titled this story the wish list, Mount Kenya wish list. So do you have a wish list ahead of President Ruto's visit?
Certainly, we have a wish list. And of course, the first wish list, now if I speak generally about Mount Kenya, is in regards to infrastructure. Because if we notice, most of the roads projects in Mount Kenya are stalled. And especially the Mau Mau Road, which again, I clearly always state, Mau Mau Road does not pass through Laikipia. So as much as I keep speaking for it, we need to consider our area of Laikipia on what road should be done there. But that said, the infrastructure is of course our first wish list. When I go to my own county of Laikipia, we have roads that gratefully the president has confirmed that they would be considered, and in fact like 2 of them have already been advertised and of course are waiting to be awarded. Of course, electricity is an issue in my place, and I'm glad that tomorrow the president is coming to launch the last mile connectivity in a place called Ngarashi, where at least our people can now start feeling they're also part of the country once they have the electricity connection. And of course, with the electricity connection, job opportunities are created, people are better informed, they are better educated, and so many other opportunities come with our people getting connected. Of course, the other one is in regards to water. Laikipia would be requesting for a mega dam in a place called Pesi, because with water we can be sure our people will be self-sustaining, and especially in matters of agriculture. And certainly the other thing the president will be coming to do in Laikipia is to inspect the completion of an electric fence, which was begun about 6 months ago when he last visited Laikipia, and that is about to be completed. So those are some of the things that we are celebrating in my county and looking forward for more to be achieved. It's also good to mention, and maybe I want to bring you up to speed on how some of these counties in our country are backward. It is the first time that Laikipia is getting a market constructed since independence. That is the Nanyuki market. We also have an Ilpolei market being constructed. We have another one that will be constructed in Miomireria. Our Nyahururu market will be constructed. We have one in Supili to be constructed. Another in
By the president?
By the government, yes. So those are some of the things that are going to happen. Of course, for you, you may think, why would they be getting a market in this day and age, getting a market at a time like this in this day and age? When you consider Mudurwa was built a long time ago, Karatina market was built a long time ago. So for us, we have a lot of things to celebrate that the current Kenya Kwanza government is doing for our people.
Lakini, do you need the president to do these things? You need the president on the ground for a last mile connectivity project to start and get finished, or for a mega dam to be put in a government project, Eric, or for a fence to be completed.
Eric, we don't need the president for these things to happen, but I'm sure from where you sit, you know that the government never has enough resources for everybody.
Yeah.
So what we do in terms of lobbying is, in fact, there are times I have even had to invite the chair of budget to my county for him to visualize, see how difficult and how the hardships my people have to go through, for him to understand. When the president comes to Laikipia County and I show him a farmer who had grown all his crops and have been harvested by elephants, it is at that point that he'll make it a priority that this electric fence needs to come up above in the priority list against what had actually been prioritized.
But why? Look, you are elected. You plus, how many MPs are there in Laikipia? Laikipia
we
East,
have
West?
three members of parliament plus myself.
Plus you?
Yes.
You 4 are in parliament?
Yes.
And your job is to represent your constituencies.
Yes.
You representing the entire county or the constituency in parliament.
Yes.
And you say these are the issues.
Yeah.
And your job is to lobby fellow MPs to allocate budgetary resources to these areas. Right?
Yes.
And then that goes to the executive for the executive to implement. Now you're toppling the apple cart here and saying it should start by the head of the executive coming to see a farmer who does not have a fence, and then the head of the executive going and putting it as a priority project for you to get. That means you failed as an MP.
No, Eric, you've turned my words around. Remember, I first mentioned the market before I mentioned the fence.
And markets are a devolved function first of all, that one is a whole different fight. But let's first focus on the other one.
As much as it's a whole different fight, it's also good to inform you that yours truly sits in the housing committee. And that is how today Laikipia has all the markets that it requires, because I know that's the need that we have currently. And I don't need the president to come to the ground to do that for me. What I'm telling you is there are some needs that if you, as Eric, you were explained to, you'd be like, why would we need an electric fence? You'd even think we are doing it for tourism purposes. But when you visit that ground, that is when you understand the needs of those people. I'll give you
That's
another good
true.
example.
My question is,
yes,
as the MP,
yes,
you go to Parliament and you raise this issue. And you say, because of animal encroachment into
Yes.
people's farms, this is the human-wildlife conflict, and this is how it's affecting the people.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yes.
You can even bring the committee responsible for a tour.
yes,
That's the job that you do in Parliament. This president was in Laikipia during campaigns.
yes,
This same president has been to Laikipia before. He came to launch an electric fence project.
yes.
Now this same president is coming to inspect the completion of that project.
Right.
Come on, you're misusing a president.
No, listen, Eric.
Not even
that
misusing
is
him.
that is
I
one
would-
of the many things he's coming to do. That is one of the many things. And it's good to also add that in the president's visit, he's also coming to reopen 9 schools that were rebuilt by the KDF because of the insecurity issues that we've had in my county.
Why does he need to
Have
come
to
and
be
open?
there.
Eric, it is in his visit. Those are just goodies, but part of the visit, and our aim for him to come to our county is for us to, for him to understand the demographics of our county better. Recently, there was a joke going around this whole country of when the president spoke about a road and he described Tarbach, Bogadashe, all those things. I would want the president to come to Laikipia County, be able to speak about Mandanyuki Rumuruti Road. A road that if today it was constructed, that road would connect Laikipia West, Laikipia East, and Laikipia North. That way the economy of my county would open up. That way the economy of my people would grow. So Eric, it's not about the schools, it's not about the electricity, it's not about the fence, it is about the president coming closer to my people, seeing their challenges, visualizing them. And so that when it comes to the priority list, because I must also tell you, Eric, as much as I go to the Tourism and Wildlife Committee, I'll explain to them about the electric fence. I'll explain to the committee on what are about our challenges. But at the end of the day, all those things go through budget cuts. What would make Laikipia not be that county that is going to be cut? It is out of visualizing the challenges my people have.
Right. We have to go on a short break. But Jane, unfortunately, what I'm hearing is if I don't sit on the housing committee, my people don't get markets. If the president doesn't come visit, my people don't get development, which beats the whole point.
Yeah,
We have
if
to
I'm
take
not
a
in
short
good
break.
books,
Yes.
it might affect development
in my area.
Which
We'll
is what started with the reason how she voted last year. Do I want my people to stay in government,
Right.
to enjoy the goodies, or do they get out of government and then they now suffer from the goodies? I mean,
So what happens to now those of us who are not in good books? We'll be back after this break.
Jane Kagiri is the woman rep for Laikipia County. She's our guest. The president is due to start a tour of Mount Kenya from tomorrow.
Yes.
And that's what we're discussing. We'd like to hear from you as well. What do you think? Should there be a wish list? Should all these things happen in the president's visit? Does it make sense? Does it not? We'll hear from you. Back shortly.
Really good. And there's a bit of feedback coming in even as we continue our conversation.
Yep.
With Jane saying, kindly ask Kagiri if Laikipians are entitled to development. If yes, mbona nataka sisi wana Laikipia. Tunyekenyeke ndo tupate what we did. Tunyenye... Jano. So maraka ni tunyenyeke ndio tupate what we deserve. She should demand for things to change. Then Global Peace Ambassador, one thing I've noticed with the MPs is that they're being controlled by the executive. She keeps mentioning Kasongo because Kasongo is micromanaging this government. The MPs are handcuffed by the executive. If hii tu ni feedback kutoka YouTube, we'll come to it. Yeah. Such
The one
visits.
that got me,
Right, go ahead.
really got me. And it's a good point. Jane, imagine, next, this is Jimmy Gakio. Next, we want to see your CEO coming to launch the show. That's now our CEO, Geoffrey, yeah, to host the show and launch it because we can't fix the nation with Eric, Mariam, and Janet. Your news editor as well should read the news bulletin. The anchors are not able. That's a parallel. Yeah. If our CEO now comes to host the show or to launch Fixing the Nation, editor anasema done.
Ndio aone vile shida zetu za hapa studio.
Ziko.
Ndio aone vile, kuna kuanga na okay. Karoy, however, says the issue of elephant versus people is a very serious menace, especially that area of Kambisimba, Marmanet forests. Very, very sad indeed. People living with elephants at their doorsteps. So it's a big issue here that you're raising. The fence is an important thing to have, right? That we need to have that fence. But then the question still comes to, okay, yeah, the fence, national government executive do fence because the MPs have gone to parliament and they've said these are the people of Marmanet need a fence. And there's a budget that's been brought, and you lobby within the budget committee and the relevant committee so that is actually put in the budget. If it's put in the budget as an item, why then do we now have to go and see the president coming to inspect the progress of a fence that's being done? You should be the one inspecting the progress to make sure that the executive is doing the job that it should be doing.
Eric, from the beginning of 2025, I made a decision that I will fix the nation by telling people the truth. The hard truth, despite the insults that will come from it, I will tell people the truth as it is. We all watched the elections of America. Why did the Republicans want to win against the Democrats? It's because when you have the government on your side, it is easy to lobby for your projects. It is easy to get everything on your side. So when we have somebody saying that I'm talking about kunyenyekea, we have 47 counties in this country, 290 constituencies. We are all competing for the same resources for us to be served for our people. And of course, some constituencies, and I keep saying this, they are way ahead of us. But because of the historical issues that we've had as a country, it is assumed that they can only keep getting better. I'll give you a very quick example. As somebody speaking of kunyenyekea, my kunyenyekea has now ensured, for the first time in the history of Kenya, we have a Laikipian sitting in the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Today, I will not need what you're telling me, Eric, that I have to go speak to other members of parliament, convince them the challenges of Laikipia. I will now be sitting in the Housing Committee, sitting in the Budget Committee, ensuring that every time they speak about budgets, I remind them, and Laikipia must also be included. Whereas in the past, we did not maybe have somebody to push us to the last mile of the budget process. Today, we have Jane Kagiri, who will be sitting there to ensure that that happens.
But you need to be in government to be in the budget committee.
You don't, of course, what happens with the allocations of committees, it is both the majority leader and the minority leader who determine. But for me, sitting on the government side, it is the majority leader who has allocated me to sit there. In fact, not the majority leader, actually the majority whip, it's the whips who do that. So for me to be there, it is out of the goodness from the government. Books. We can call it being in the good books. We can also call it my aggression, my determination, and also my commitment.
Which of those do you want to go with, Jane? Is it because of your hard work, because you're representing your people strongly, or is it because you're in the good books?
It can be either. It can be either.
Which one of them do you choose one?
Eric, you cannot put me on the spot because I don't know the wisdom that was used. Sorry, to get me to that
position.
How do
you attribute it? I mean, if you go back to the people, do you tell them, I succeeded because I did my job the way you wanted me to do it, or I succeeded because I went and I sat on the side of the government?
Eric, it could also be it is Laikipia's time. Because it has been assumed that other Mount Kenya counties or other presumed Mount Kenya counties are the ones who should be sitting in those committees. In fact, there sometimes you'll hear debates in this country on why was this person removed from this committee, why was this person not put in that committee. Why hasn't there ever been a debate? Like now you want to put me on the spot on where I'm in that committee. Why don't you also put me on the spot? Why wouldn't you have put the country on the spot a year ago to ask them why hasn't Laikipia ever been given an opportunity to sit in that prestigious committee? Today, now that we are there, allow me, Eric, to refuse a discussion on why I am seated there. I am rightfully there because I'm a member of parliament, qualified enough to sit in a budget and appropriations committee to articulate the issues of my people. Allow me to stop it at that.
Right. Joe Bikeri.
Go ahead.
Joe Bikeri is saying, so those of us who are not in this government shouldn't expect development?
That's exactly what I was going to ask.
Those of us who are not in the good books, those of us who are not privy, who don't sit in committees.
Yeah, because you can rightfully defend you being in the budget committee. That's not really the conversation we're discounting.
Yes.
I think the bigger concern is the exclusion thereof of people who are not necessarily in good books. This is something that then ends up affecting other counties. I know we're talking about Laikipia, but we also have to speak to Kenya and national development. What it sounds like is if you are in good books, if you do happen to have some kind of proximity to the executive, then there will be favors to ensure that development in your county is almost prioritized above development of other counties, which I think even as somebody who perhaps is in Laikipia or any county should be fought. You should be saying, no, we all deserve development in equal measure across different counties. But this is probably what's ailing development across the board.
And if the issue is
preferential treatment,
right,
and proximity.
If the issue is limited resources, counties have been agitating for a bigger share, right? Maybe the thing to do is then to fight for a bigger share of national government's revenue, so that you have more for development spending, as opposed to, let me push for Laikipia, these are my people, but that comes at the expense of West Pokot or wherever else.
Let me read this comment by Gatungo before you come in. Gatungo Kamuhujia. He says, I support Mhesh. We electorate expect too much. We assume that after voting, everything will be in order in a very short time. Let's be honest. There's a process and procedures of implementation.
Thanks, Eric. And of course, I would want to go back to what Janet has asked, if it's at the expense of other counties and constituencies. For me, allow me to stick to my county of Laikipia. I have told you, other counties and constituencies could have the luxury of being in opposition, could have the luxury of being anti-government, pro-government, or whatever. They could have the luxury of lobbying or not lobbying for their people. Unfortunately, Laikipia has no luxury of that. Already, our people are suffering too much, due to lack of water, due to lack of electricity, due to lack of roads, due to human-wildlife conflict, due to insecurity, which now at least is in a good situation. For me, I cannot afford, I have no luxury of thinking of, do I want to be anti-government? Do I want to be away from government? For me, I have to be close enough. So in regards to resources, it is an individual member who decides how aggressive are you going to be for your people, how much are you going to push and lobby for your people. It is up to them, and that is why we are elected.
However, though, when you say that the leadership of Laikipia has for a long time been marginalized and been put aside, it's not entirely truthful, is it? Because if you look back, we've had cabinet secretaries who've come from Laikipia. We've got ministers and assistant ministers who've come from Laikipia. We've got senior members, even in the nationals, in parliament before. This is the 13th. From parliament number 1 to parliament number 13, surely Laikipia has been there, right? If you remember the likes of Gigi Kariuki, you remember even, who's the MP for Laikipia East?
Mwangi Kiunjuri.
Yes. Yeah. Mwangi Kiunjuri has even been a minister.
Yes.
Okay? Your former governor is now the chair of KRA, and previously when he was a member of parliament, he was sitting in those committees, and he was even an assistant minister at the treasury. So Laikipia has been represented at the highest levels. It's not that Jane Kagiri has come in and now pushed, and for the first time now we are seeing Laikipia occupying those seats.
I totally agree with you, Eric, but there's one good example I always like to give. If you have a good governor, let's say devolution began in 2013, and you have a good governor who manages the county from 2013 to 2017, does it again 2017 to 2022, and even better governor comes in from 2022 to 2027, then compare a county which maybe for that whole period was first left unrepresented, because there are very many years Laikipia was unrepresented if you check your records. So in
unrepresented means what?
Are you aware there's a time we had a Nakuru MP represent both Laikipia and Nakuru? Okay. If you go back to history, those are the challenges we've had. Yeah. So for those years we lost in leadership, we can never catch up. Even if you say we were appointed cabinet secretaries, we had all these people, they did their part, but already from the start off, we had been left behind. So we are still doing a lot of catch-up, and catch-up we will do, and I believe in the next 10 years we'll be speaking a different story. Yeah.
And that is by kowtowing to the administration, the government of the day.
Yes.
That is by, following the government of the day.
No, I have told you, Eric, it is a choice we are making, that because our people have the needs that they have, we have no luxury of, like today I can decide for me to please my people, I'll go out there, attack the government, speak whatever I would want to speak against the government for me to please them. But the 2.5 years, what challenges are they going through? If I can salvage some of their needs in the 2.5 years, I will have done my work.
We had a conversation last week about NGCDF and a larger conversation around how do we remove members of parliament from the yoke of the executive so that they remember the work of representation, of legislation, of oversight. That becomes their primary role. I hear this and I'm like, yeah, we need to speed up this conversation, because if you have to basically be as close to power as possible for your people, then that means there's a problem systemic. And for the people of Laikipia might benefit now, but if Jane is not the woman rep and she's not as aggressive, or someone else who's not friendly with the government, then they suffer, and that's not fair. And for everybody else right now who isn't close to the seat of power, they are suffering. Representation, oversight, legislation. Nowhere in there is there being friends with the executive or being close.
But Mariam, why don't we be truthful to Kenyans and tell them this is how it works globally? It is not just in Kenya. Everywhere you have to lobby for your people for them to be served.
That's true.
It is true internationally. Speak of any country, France, US, whichever. You have to lobby for your people to be served. So
it's
a
place of lobbying, not parliament.
It is parliament, but beyond that, I have told you, the implementers of the budget are the executive. So at the end of the day, what makes sure that your Laikipia request remains a priority in the wish list or in the priorities of the government? It is how much effort you put in to follow up and to lobby for that issue to be addressed.
You know, I think we don't get us wrong.
Yeah.
We're not saying that there is no need for lobbying.
Yes.
That's the primary job of the MP.
Yes.
Representation. Representation means that you take your issues to the people. You're finding another 289 people who are also coming to represent their people. So you've got to lobby and see, how do I get my interests covered? That's a job, right? And then the other thing is, once you have agreed and told the executive, these are the priority areas for our people, and you put it in a budget, the next thing is you're oversighting.
Yes.
Right? And you've created the laws that enable the government to do the things to serve the people. And then you start oversighting, lording over the executive to make sure that the executive is doing the right thing. Not the way it sounds, that you have to go and lobby and plead with the executive for the executive to consider the needs of your people. The structure of our constitution is such that you go to the national legislature and you lobby and you agree among the people, and that's why the constitution gave parliament the power to make the budget. So that then you make that budget and decide, these are the priority areas. We need to have a mega dam in Pepsi because Pepsi is going to serve these people. We need to have a fence because of human-wildlife conflict. We need to look at how do we increase the number of schools in our area, because schools have led to the marginalization of the people and has contributed to insecurity. I mean, you have a case and it's clear. You need to increase the number of roads, like that road that links east, west into north. It's a critical road. And yes, everybody agrees. But do you go and beg for it? Or do you go and lobby your fellow MP so that they put it in the budget? And once they put it in the budget, then you call the man called Davis Chirchir, who is the CS for roads, and tell him, do the road. It's in budget. You have the money. We want to see when the Kenya Roads Board places this in the program, when whether it's Kenha or Kura that does the road, whether it's a major trunk road or an urban road, when it's going to start and the program for it. It sounds to me that you're saying that you've got to lobby the head of the executive to consider this road, and then probably just hopefully put it in the budget. And then even after it's been put in the budget, you still have got to go and lobby and say, Mr. President, this road that you promised us,
there's no guarantee, and you've pled your
Eric,
case.
I've listened to you. And that is the ideal situation we'd all hope for, we'd all pray for. And I keep saying the one mistake we made as Kenya Kwanza government when we came into power is, I believe the first thing we should have taken Kenyans through is the debt situation. And there's a transition bill coming in Parliament. And I would want to be the first to put an amendment to that bill and state that any president towards an electioneering year, and that is maybe if we're going to elections in August, in April, whichever president is exiting, or even if they're going to be seeking another term, they must table the book of accounts in Parliament, where we know our assets and we know our liabilities. Today, or let me give an example of when the Kenya Kwanza government came into power. We came in with a lot of hope, promised Kenyans a lot of goodies and things that were going to work. What we did not tell Kenyans, or what was even unknown to us, is that 3 months after our election, we were supposed to pay a loan that was coming up. Today, when we sit here, we are talking about 5 trillion in debt. At least now we've gotten a bit of a reprieve. I believe our next debt of around 150 billion is coming in 2027. 2028, I think we have 1 trillion to pay. 2031, I think another 1 point something trillion. And it moves on like that until I think 2048 or something like that. So what Eric you're speaking about is the ideal situation. If Kenya had no debt, if Kenya had enough resources, that is what was supposed to happen. You lobby, you state that this is the road that needs to be constructed in Laikipia, push it through the budget process, wait for yourself to do the oversight, and life continues for our people. Unfortunately, even today as we speak, it is 175 billion that is being released to our contractors of roads for them to get back on the roads that have stalled. That telling you that we do not even have resources for us to start new projects. So when, Eric, you sit here and tell me it's about, pleading to the president, pleading to the cabinet, pleading to the executive, certainly it is, because I would want to keep reminding them the Nanyuki-Muruti Road would be a new project. And for it to be considered in the midst of all these pending projects, I need to keep buzzing at somebody's ear, reminding them every day, if an extra coin is found in this economy, let it go to the Nanyuki-Muruti Road. That is what I'm going to do. If that is called pleading, if that is called begging, if that is called bowing, let it be. That is what I'm going to do for my people. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I wait to them.
We'll come back to that to still interrogate it. Some feedback on YouTube. Eric Mudhoka, what's the work of government agencies like Kenha, Kera, Kura, KWS, if not to assist in budget allocation? The truth is unfolding. If you're not aligned with the government, be ready for winter. I think, somebody else here, Tibbs Muge, is saying, look, Jane is well-meaning, but in the long run, what I'm hearing is the situation ensuring elites and benefits to the people are a byproduct, but she has to remember that she's speaking to the nation. The MP is making a king out of our president. That's Amana Cottages. Right, so I think even though you're making your case, there's still a concern about the proximity. And
the nation at large. Where does the nation fall?
All the taxpayers, if we all
are to lobby. Bernard Ondima, so who's to speak and lobby for the unoccupied parliamentary seats in the budgeting committee?
Yeah, so those constituencies that don't have an MP today.
Yes, right now. Who speaks for them? It's a bigger question of who lobbies for everyone. If this is how we're doing it, if we are saying to the executive and buzzing in the air, what happens to everyone who doesn't have the ear of the president?
I am not speaking about the president's ear, and I think it is what has been done around here.
Or the executive
I have said, when I was elected, I made my slogan, it's Laikipia's time. It is a time for the whole country to realize there is one county somewhere which was forgotten, and it's time to receive its justice. So for me to keep saying, I keep speaking about the needs of Laikipia County. Today you go to KWS, Laikipia is top of their priority. You go to Kenha, Nanyuki-Muruti Road is top of their priority, because we have to keep mentioning, speaking about it, and reminding them. So if that is what is called making somebody king, then Laikipia is king in this case, because it is Laikipia that has to be spoken about all the time, and it is Laikipia's needs that have to be met.
Jen, I like what you've said. It's your job to knock on all those doors, to make sure, for example, that KWS is aware of the human-wildlife conflict, to make sure that the Ministry of Roads and the Kenya Roads Board are aware of the need for this road and the economic impact it would have by opening up the road. That's the job. That's the job of representation.
Yes.
To go knock on all those doors and present a case for your people, which is okay. It's only that it sounds like these are not enough. That going to the doors of KWS and the ministry in charge of wildlife and tourism, and the one in charge of roads, and the one in charge of trade for kites and markets and all, going to those and lobbying there is not enough if you have not talked to the president.
I don't know why you're bringing the president into this. I have told you, I keep speaking about Laikipia at every given opportunity.
It's okay, but
what I told you is
coming. Yeah, let me just tell you why.
Yeah.
It's the president who's coming, and it's the president who has this agenda to come and personally inspect, to come and personally launch, to come and personally see. That's what you said. You want him to come and personally see the state of this road. You want him to come and personally see the progress of the electric fence. You want him to come and personally see, to launch the last mile electricity connectivity in an area, to personally do it. And we asked you why. And you said, if he does, then he understands. And we told you, but that's why he has a cabinet. That's why the executive has state departments. That's why we have institutions.
Eric, I told you this is the year of telling each other the truth.
Ukweli usemwe.
I have been a person who has followed politics. In fact, I keep saying the day I decided I was going to get into politics was when His Excellency, the late Moi Kibaki, visited my high school. I think I was in Form 2 or something. I looked at his demeanor, observed his leadership, and I said, one day I want to be a leader like him. Years later, His Excellency Moi Kibaki became a president. And I remember, if there was any noise made at that point, it was about, this is an unseen president. He doesn't come to explain to us what he's doing. This man is a coward. Do you remember those words? He was called any name that can be held in this country because of him not getting out to engage people. Now, here again, we have a president, And I wonder if you had this same conversation when you visited Western, Northeastern.
Same.
You had the same conversation.
Yes,
Good
yes.
to hear that. But here we have a president who is going out to the people, engaging them, meeting them, and now we have a problem with that. So again, I think we're in a situation of you're
damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Mm-hmm. Again, I'll give you an
We're going
example.
into a break. Let me just cut you short. Sorry, we shall continue the conversation in the next hour.
Yeah.
But before we go to the break, we had a call on the line, a fixer from Udaya.
Yes, Kinyanjui.
Kinyanjui.
Hello.
Good morning.
Morning.
Asante sana for joining us. What's your question of feedback on this?
My question is very simple. If Mount Kenya is divided, if Mount Kenya is divided,
Go ahead.
what are they doing? Because there is no need of saying that the government or the president is supposed to come and we beg for him to do our project. Whereby you've got the CDF or the national government, so somebody coming and telling us that we have to be in the government. What about those who are in the opposition? Are they going to benefit? And we are all Kenyans. We are taxpayers. So there is no need of coming here and trying to fix what is not there.
All right. Thank you, Kinyanjui.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes?
Thanks, Kinyanjui.
Asante. We have Steve from Laikipia. Steve, good morning. Do you have Steve on the line? Steve, good morning. He's not on the line. So let's take this quick break, and then we come back and continue the conversation with Jane Kagiri, the woman rep for Laikipia County. She is speaking to us ahead of President Ruto's visit to Mount Kenya, which begins tomorrow. Back shortly, it's 9 a.m. Until you fix it. We continue a conversation with Jane Kagiri ahead of the president's visit. So here is what, and the story is on page 6 of the Daily Nation today. The president will issue title deeds in Kieni, Nyeri, Tigania West, inspect construction of the county aggregation and industrial parks in Laikipia West, in Githunguri in Kiambu, and a special economic zone in Maragua, Murang'a. He'll also inspect ongoing water sanitation and sewerage projects in Igembe South in Meru, in Maragua, and Mbere North in Embu. The program includes visiting feedlots in Tigania West and South Imenti. The feedlots are meant to boost the livestock value chain and the government support for farmers to produce quality meat, hides and skins, especially for the European Union and the Middle East market. In Nyandarua, the president will tour the JM Memorial Hospital at Olkalau. The government seeks to work with the county to complete the medical facility with plans to have it as the only level 5 hospital in the county. He considers this as a boost to the implementation of the UHC. In Murang'a, he'll visit the Kenya Medical Training College in Kangema. He'll also commission police houses in Chuka, Igamba Ng'ombe, and student houses in Tharaka-Nithi. Okay? And so on and so forth. In Mbere South, he'll inspect the Kiambere Bulk Water Project. He'll also visit the Mau Mau Road Project in Lari in Kiambu. The road was recently allocated 5 billion shillings. It's being built along the Aberdare and Mount Kenya Forest in Kiambu, Murang'a, and Nyandarua, and Nyeri counties. Okay? So the president is busy looking at development projects and opening projects and inspecting projects and so on and so forth. This is what our guest in the first hour was saying. We are still operating with the software of the 80s and 90s, where Baba Moi would come to do gabions and cut the ribbon to open a school and open the Nyayo ward and go into the T-zones and have the Nyayo T-zone and open and do all those things. And that's how we saw Baba Moi, and we knew that everything good comes from Baba Moi. And if Baba Moi does not visit your area,
just let you down.
Same old software, isn't it? Jen?
I totally disagree with you, Eric, because I, unfortunately, and for lack of a better word, allow us not to trivialize this to opening of schools, cutting of ribbons, and forget the bigger national issue. Seated here, let's remember this is a president who is implementing the universal health coverage, that is SHA. This is a president who is implementing the affordable housing program. This is a president who has ensured that now we've moved from a maize importing country to now a maize exporting country. This is a president who has ensured that we have excess in sugarcane production, that we no longer need to consider importing sugar. This is the president who has employed the most number of teachers since the history of this country. I believe now we are at 76,000 teachers. This is a president who has restored security in areas that were very insecure for the last many years in this country. This is a president who is going to deliver what we all committed to in the Constitution. And Eric, as I said, this is an year I'll keep telling people the truth. Maybe apart from Mariam, we all voted for the Constitution. And that was in the year 2010. And in that 2010...
Sorry, your director is making fun of me. At his film? Oh, 2005.
2010.
Oh, 2010.
Yeah.
I was
15 years
in
ago.
high school. No, I did not vote for that. I was just starting high school. Yeah.
So she's right.
So it's very right. So in that Constitution, I remember at that time everybody kept saying, if Raila has read it, I have read it. If Kibaki has read it, I have read it. So clearly all of us did not know Article 43 was going to tie us to our pay slips one day in our lifetime. Today we all want to sit here and criticize the Kenya Kwanza government, claim that they are cutting money from our pay slips. Yet Janet, Eric, myself went and said, yes, every Kenyan has a right to good housing with proper sewerage. Who are we speaking about? Somebody in Mukuru, somebody in Kibera, somebody in a slum where they need to live properly. We also went ahead and said every Kenyan is entitled to universal health coverage. Today we want to sit here and again claim where we've been deducted money for this. Yet we all went to that polling station and said we are saying yes to this constitution. During the impeachment process, I remember somebody saying, oh, why did it take such a short process for the impeachment to complete of the former deputy president? And I remember referring him because he was one of our church leaders. I told him, please don't be the people who said Kibaki read for you the constitution. It is still in that constitution. Janet, Eric, and myself said in a record 10 days, an impeachment process should be complete. Then thereafter, we come again and ask, why would you do this thing so fast? So what I'm trying to say is, again, let's not trivialize to the president visiting Laikipia County being the issue that he has come to open a school and forget it is him who has employed 76,000 teachers in this country for him to ensure proper education to continue in this country. Let's also not forget that this is a president who promised us fertilizer at a reduced price. Fertilizer has come through. Today, our coffee farmers, our tea farmers, our milk, our whatever, our livestock farmers are appreciating the benefits of lower inputs on their produce. So for him to visit Laikipia County does not beat all these other benefits. He's just coming to meet the people who voted for him, see where their challenges are at, appreciate them, engage them, listen to their leaders, confirm that what Jane Kagiri has been saying about these areas are the actual truth, what needs to be done better in those areas. That is what the visit is all about.
You're saying that he is coming to listen to the people. So tomorrow, what in the program of the president,
yes,
is there a place where the president sits and listens?
Eric, there has been a quiet demand for the president to visit Mount Kenya. I believe you saw it when he was visiting Northeastern, when he was visiting Western, when he was visiting Nyanza. The question was, why has he forgotten Mount Kenya?
Yeah, but is
so now he's coming to Mount Kenya. Again, you want to ask why he's coming to Mount Kenya?
No, if he's going to sit with them.
You can come and talk,
yes,
or you can come and listen.
And engage. And listen.
Yes.
So all those things that you have said he has done.
Yes.
Okay. So yes, he has spearheaded the laws, the rollout of UHC. Okay. Success or no success, that's aside. He has worked on all these things: fertilizer, maize production, maize bumper harvest, data confirmed from KNBS. Okay, sawa. But you're saying that now he's coming to the people to feedback with the people. Is there a session in tomorrow's program when he'll be in Laikipia where the president sits down and the people speak to him?
There'll not be that session, but I've told you the actual fact that the president is going to Mount Kenya is out of him listening to the people's demand for him to go and be with them. And by what will happen tomorrow.
So the demand was the people said, come.
No, Eric, let me also complete my statement. The fact that I'm their representative, I'll have an opportunity to speak. Do I engage my people? Yes, I do. Have I listened to them? Yes, I do. Have I been in meetings where people have told me what their challenges are? Yes, I have been. So when I speak, I'm speaking on behalf of my people. So the people may not necessarily speak to the president, but their representatives will have a session to speak to the president.
So he doesn't need to come.
People. Yeah?
So he doesn't need to come. He just needs a session with you.
No, Eric, he needs to come. Because I explained to you, it is the same people who demand when a leader is elected, they keep telling you, we want to see you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to move to a question from Munene Dennis.
Yeah.
Honorable Kagiri, what's your scorecard for the people of Laikipia? Maybe you spoke to this, but highlighting one or two tangible projects.
First, it's good to inform Munene that on Friday evening, I was awarded the #1 woman representative in the country by Star Leaders Awards. And so I'm very proud of that. And this is the second year running.
Star Leaders
Awards.
Okay.
Yes.
But well done.
Thank you. And just to state a few of the things that I've done, this March, I'm graduating 430 students who have gone through the TVET training that is NITA certified, so they can be employed anywhere, they can self-employ themselves, and that is a dream I had for my people. And I would want to mention we partnered with KCB Foundation, where they matched a shilling for me. Because it's good to inform Kenyans that any woman representative you see in this country receives 9 million shillings per constituency. Members of parliament receive from around 130 million to 160 million. Governors receive in the billions. So with the little that we receive, we are still able to do much. And it is also good to inform the nation that for the first time, the Education Act of, I believe, 2015 was implemented, that every of our girls received their sanitary towels for a whole year supply last year, courtesy of the women representatives. Again, I've also been conducting catering classes for my people. Last year I graduated 360 students. This year I plan to graduate 600 students. And beyond that, there's a lot of economic empowerment going on. I have been giving my women groups resources for them to grow their groups. I've also been giving them incubators. I've been giving car wash machines, a lot of equipment that will economically empower my people.
Do you think it's unfair for the people to expect all these kind of tangible projects from somebody whose job is representation, oversight, and legislation? Because
Eric,
like now, this question by Munene, highlight tangible projects.
Yes.
They want brick and mortar. They want something that can count. Is it fair?
I don't think it's fair, but first, as we said, there's a lot of civic education that is required in this country, because even you'll find a point where people don't understand what is the role of a woman representative, what is the role of a member of parliament, what is the role of the governor, what is the role of the MC. All these are things that need to be taught to our people, and that is why I've made it my concerted effort to explain to my people the amount of money that I receive, because sometimes you'll meet somebody and they'll tell you our classrooms are broken down, our toilets need construction. Then I'm looking at them and telling them, even if I broke myself into pieces, that wouldn't be possible. So I think we need to explain to our people and educate them on whose role is which and what they're supposed to do.
Right. The amount of lobbying you've spoken to, Jim Gakio is asking, can she, for example, lobby, buzz to the president, tell him to reduce the wage bill, reduce the counties to 8 and ministries to 14? Can she say no to MP's salary increment and address SHA issues? So he's talking to the representation at a national level. Hapo kwa wage bill, reducing number of counties, okay, those are big questions. But yes, say no to salary increments and address SHA issues. Let me begin with the salary increments.
First, it's good to mention, I'm not aware of any salary increment, because there should have been conversations between SRC, and I've not seen any. But what I think we are speaking about is in regards to mileage. And it's good to mention that since independence or the establishment of parliament, there's always been a case of mileage. And mileage standards are set before the new constitution, they were set by the Public Service Commission. After the new constitution, they are set by SRC. So I am lost on that conversation, because I have seen it nowhere. I only had it in the media. So allow me not to comment beyond that, because it's nowhere on my desk and it's not coming.
But if there were to be a salary increment of 366,000 shillings, would you reject it?
I think it's not fair to ask me that, because I've said I have not seen it anywhere.
No, hypothetical. If there were to be a salary increment of 366,000 shillings, would you reject it?
Certainly in this day and time, it would be the wrong conversation to be taking place.
Jen, this was in the supplementary budget. In the supplementary budget and in the budget policy statement, there is an allocation for an extra amount to go to the Parliamentary Service Commission. And this will be in terms of remuneration for PSC employees, including members of parliament. You're saying you're not aware, you have not seen?
No, that I have not seen.
Okay.
Yeah. I told you these are truthful here. What I have not seen, I'll say I have not seen.
What you said, it's the wrong conversation to be having.
Yes.
The temperature.
But does that mean a rejection of it?
Mariam, are you people here to put me on the spot? I have just said
it's a fair question.
Considering the situation we are as a country, I believe it should be not the right time.
Yeah, you'd be surprised that very few would say what you're saying, which is why we're asking few of your peers.
Yeah.
I think we've sort of seen ever since the Reject Finance Bill protest, where many thought there would be an obvious way people would vote.
Yeah.
You're surprised that people would not read the room and say, I'm voting yes, which is why she's asking, would you reject it? You're saying, yeah, it would be the wrong time to have that conversation. But the reason why we're asking is because what we're learning more and more each day is that there'd be more people to say yes to it.
True.
Can I ask you a question, and then you guys will rein me back in, because I've just gone a bit philosophical. But if you could change one way that Kenya is governed, what would it be and why?
If there's one thing I would change, Janet, it would be in regards to misinformation and what goes out there to the public. And where I'm appreciating your show is that for the first time now we have a show where I can come and speak, say my side of the story, uninterrupted, and then somebody else can come and counter it, agree with it or disagree with it. And I would want to pick up from what you've spoken about the finance bill. And I believe, allow me to also give you, what did you call it? A quote. Because everybody is doing it doesn't mean it's right, and because nobody is doing it doesn't mean it's wrong. In regards to the finance bill, unfortunately, misinformation went ahead of the correct information. And today, as we sit here, and even when I go around my county, I talk to my people and ask them, you got very angry at me because I said yes to the constitution, I mean to the finance bill. Then I ask them, which particular clause offended you that I said yes to? And they'll say, Tuliambiwa. I'll give you a good example of a town in Laikipia called Rumuruti, where they do a lot of horticultural farming. In Rumuruti today, if you went, and maybe for the last 1 month, they're selling a kg of onions at 10 shillings, to a point where they'll even give you those onions. When you look at those farmers, I don't believe when they were planting, that is the benefit they were expecting. When I said yes to the finance bill, it is because we wanted to introduce a levy on imported onions, imported tomatoes, imported eggs into this country needed to be charged a levy. The misinformation that went out there, and many of the local stations kept telling our people, Jane Kagiri is saying the onions you're planting in your vegetable garden needs to be taxed. Was that what I said? That is not what I said. Today when I speak to my farmers, they tell me, Rudi kwa bunge, you take back that thing. That now they need to charge imported groceries, they need to be charged a levy. Janet and Mariam, I'll give you an example. Long back, if you went to the market, because me, I still go to the market, you'd ask for Kenyan oranges. You're told these oranges are 100 bob. Then you're told South African oranges are 200 bob. You'd go for the Kenyan oranges, as bitter as sometimes they are, because they were cheaper. Today, go to the same market, you'll be told the South African oranges are 100 bob. Kenyan oranges are 100 bob. So, of course, because of the way we've been colonized mentally, you go for the South African. So, at what point will our Kenyan farmers ever get to sell their produce? Unless we introduce a levy on these others. Today you travel to Dubai, you'll see an avocado. Written a cost, then you'll be, how expensive can this avocado be? Then it is even written from Kenya. So why is it done those two things? It has been overcharged. So as you're buying it, you know you're empowering a Kenyan farmer against your own Saudi farmer or UAE farmer. Number two, as you're buying that avocado, it's been made more expensive for you to consider buying the cheaper avocado there. So when we go to other countries, go to Netherlands, go wherever, you'll see that's the same act they're doing. But when it comes to our own country, we don't want to charge levy on imported food. Today, what makes me most sad is that those same farmers who import food into this country are the ones driving all the way to Rumuruti, buying our onions, drying them somewhere in Thika, then rebranding them as Ugandan onions. And we will all buy those onions. So who is losing in this? It is our Kenyan farmer. The second example I want to give, there was the issue of sanitary towels. And I remember it went all wild because I remember I was one person who put out my statement there, and I said, as the chairperson of the 47 woman reps, I cannot allow it to continue that every year we are spending 1 billion shillings to import sanitary towels from China. Sanitary towels which me as Jane, I cannot explain the quality, I cannot discuss how they are made. Then here we have our local producers who sell sanitary towels at better pricing, and we are denying them the opportunity. So we said, as long as you're bringing us a finished product, of course we don't charge them tax, but as long as you'll be bringing in a finished product into this country, we are going to charge you tax. Else, you come into the country and make your product from here, then we won't charge you any tax. So when we said that, do you remember the conversation in the country? Everybody said, oh, what about the quality? Janet and Mariam, and I'm on national TV saying this, looking at the screen. If you and I or any one of us walked out and noticed a spotting, you'd come back and ask any one of us who has a sanitary towel. Do you ask the brand?
No.
You just pick it and go and use it. So when we come back and claim quality, how genuine are we being to ourselves?
So the issue here
in
then-
high school,
I have to push back on that one specifically.
Yeah.
Because the issue one was,
Yes.
you're going to make these imported sanitary towels a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
Do these Kenyan manufacturers have the capacity to plug this gap at this time? And they do not. I use, and I try to use, because there's some really good local brands that have great quality sanitary towels. And I try to use them, but it's today you're there, tomorrow you're not there. Today I find you on the shelf, tomorrow I don't find you on the shelf. I would love to, but legislation can't beat the demand, because at the end of the day, the person who suffers is the person who wants a sanitary pad for 60 bob. And then this local one is probably 100. And it's like, okay, the pack is 60 versus 100. Which choice do I make? I make the 60 bob one. When you take the 60 bob away one, now you've made me have to either find a cloth or go back to backward ways of dealing with my period.
unfortunately, Mariam, you're dealing with a researcher. Do you know if you go to the supermarket shelf today, the local brand is at 55 to 60 shillings. The imported brand is at 100 to 120 shillings. Can I shock you today, Mariam? The imported brand arrives at the port of Mombasa at 39 shillings. So my question in Parliament was, what is that expense that you incur between Mombasa and Nairobi for you to push that price to 120? So why are you exploiting Kenyans?
Do they have the capacity, the local brands, to serve all our needs as the local manufacturers, to serve all the women of Kenya with sufficient sanitary pads?
Now, Mariam, before I even tabled my statement in Parliament that day, I took a video of all our local manufacturers. I even told them, come on board because I'm speaking for you people. They recorded for me their machines at standstill because Kenyans prefer the imported ones.
It's true. The installed capacity is enough to actually meet the demand.
Yes.
They're operating at about 50% of the installed capacity. So the issue is I think the bottom line of what I'm hearing here is that Parliament did a very poor job of communicating to the people.
Yeah.
But let's come back and I'll show you what I said. Charles from Nyeri is on the line.
Our country.
Charles is our fixer. Charles, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Tom.
Thank you for calling in.
Yes, my issue is there.
Yep, go ahead.
I'm talking on behalf of the Gen Z. Mweshimwa is talking continuously about the president, but she is not talking about the people who died, the young people who died during the demonstration when they were fighting the finance bill.
Thank you.
We as the Gen Z, we feel like she is also supposed to talk about the Gen Z, the people who died. And as long as we have budgeted corruption, I think can work in Kenya. So also she's supposed to address corruption in Kenya. Because this government is really corrupt. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Thank you, Charles. And it brings me to my next question, and it ties into what you were saying. At the expense, unfortunately, Jane, of this, expecting a goodie bag from the president, lobbying, etc., the expense is you are then beholden to the executive. And that means when it's time to vote for a finance bill, no matter how punitive, you vote yes. And that means whether it's one clause that you really wanted to go, there's many ways you could have gotten the sanitary pads conversation and even outside of the finance bill. Bill. But that means you're basically beholden, and that's the problem we have with a lot of our legislative representatives, yes, if that makes sense. They are beholden to the president because of these goodies, because of this, because of that, because of the seats of power, because of the committees, all of that. And then when it comes to not representing the people, like Charles is saying, when people are dying on the streets, our representatives are nowhere to be seen. When there's a finance bill that we are saying no to, even if we're ill-informed, we have said no, our representatives should be saying no with us.
Because of the proximity to the executive and being beholden.
I think, let me call it, you're driving a narrative that is not true. And I'll give you a very good example. This very bad flu I'm suffering from, I got it from New York because I was attending the CSW. And I remember the week I was attending CSW, I posted a photo from 2017 when I was still speaking at CSW. And this was 2025 speaking at CSW. And somebody wrote in the comments, oh, you've been to the US before. Because the assumption, and I'm sorry to say, is that as Kenyan leaders, we've been assumed that it is being in this position that has given you opportunities, which is not the case. I would want to state, prior to joining the parliament, I served as an advisor to the president, the former president. And today when I sit here, it is from that experience that I'm speaking from. Served in the executive and now serving in parliament. And when you sit and tell me I have to I'm at the beck and call of the president, I think that's not the true position. Because as a representative of my people, and that's what I keep saying, we still have to revisit the finance bill conversation. Because if you remember, anything that was punitive in that bill was removed. And it was removed based on engagement from the public. When we removed the punitive sections of that finance bill, the conversation became reject in totality, even after you've removed whatever was punitive. So today when we sit here, of course, I agree, as one of the callers has said, our conversation also needs to move to corruption. Because corruption is something I have condemned in every way possible that I can. Because if we would stop corruption in this country, we'd be very far as a country. Because I keep wondering, how don't we get broke, yet there's so much corruption going on? So if actually we stopped it, even maybe some of the money we are talking about, we'd find it going into some of the needs that we have as a country. But bottom line, I must accept we failed in our communication, and that is why we are doing better. For me, I said, when this year began, my work will be fixing the nation based on conversations. There are times I'll get insulted for them. There are times I'll get abused for saying the things that people don't want to hear, but I will keep saying it because the truth must be said. And one day, one time, we will all agree. This was said, this we did, this we should have done better.
Fact remains, you don't bite the hand that feeds you. It's a basic law of nature. You don't bite the hand that feeds you. How do you push back against the president when need be?
If he fed you.
Yeah. No, what I'm trying to imply is the president, and for me, of course, I've never engaged another president at the legislative level. Of course, when I did at the executive, it was yes, sir. You have to agree with everything. But at the legislative level, I must admit His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto is a listening president, is a president you exchange and tell him, I don't agree with this, I think we need to do better on this. And he listens. That's what I must tell you.
We had this conversation last week.
I went to Othaya Girls High School, so semantics must be very difficult.
Yeah.
So does he hear? The caller from Udaya who had called earlier was saying that the mountain is divided.
Yes.
Is it true? Is the mountain divided?
Certainly, there are people who feel the mountain is divided, and of course, for reasons known to all of us, because after the impeachment, we have people who felt we should not have sent the former deputy president home, and the others who feel he should have been sent home. So we have two sides of that conversation. But for me, and it's good for me to state my position in regards to that impeachment, I keep saying, God bless me to be in a county which is very highly cosmopolitan. And in fact, recently I gave an example when the president lifted vetting in Northeastern, and there was a lot of hue and cry all over the country, people saying that should not have happened. And I told somebody, I think I was on a panel on Citizen, and I told them, it's very easy to condemn something as long as you're not living through it. And my example is in Laikipia County, we have all these communities. So you'll have a Pokot student who has gone to school from grade 1, completed up to Form 4. We have a Turkana student who has done the same. We have a Somali student who has done the same. The day they go to apply for their ID cards, they are told, no, we need to vet you for a whole year. Then another tribe easily passes and gets the ID on the same day. Then how do you want to come back and tell me that we are going to end cattle rustling in a community like that? How are you going to tell me we are going to ensure security in a place where you want to discriminate a community against the other? So for me, I keep saying, the minute I was elected, the first thing I did in 2023 was to bring it to the notice of the president that it is easy to determine if somebody is born and brought up in Laikipia and that you can do it in a day.
So those who are divided are not on the side of the president?
Yeah.
Is it that they were not born in Mount Kenya? What are you saying?
No, that's an example I was giving on a totally different conversation, and it is in regard to the cosmopolitan nature of Laikipia.
I'm asking that because you're answering your own question. The question was, is the mountain divided?
Eric, yes, I am coming back to that question.
Please now get to the question.
That is where I'm getting back to that question. And for me to respond to that question, I would want to tell you, Laikipia County is a cosmopolitan county. And the minute I had the former deputy president trying to introduce a conversation of tribalism to a county that lives peacefully and my people have lived cohesively, I said no. And this today I would want to state, even if it was my sister or my brother introducing a conversation like that, and they sit in the highest office, I would be the first to table an impeachment against them.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have Safas calling in from Nairobi. Let's hear from Safas and then we take a break shortly. Safas, good morning.
Morning, Eric.
Thank you very much for calling in.
Thank you for allowing me to speak to this platform.
Go ahead.
Mine is just a comment, and I would like to just give it like a few sessions. We fought. My first time to vote was in 2010 when we were voting for the new constitution. Now, the ideal situation for Kenyans, and what I had in my idea is not president to decide everything, and the president doesn't need to make like everything. Even when our office in Kitui is being swept, Laikipia, everywhere, he has to know. For development, it's the same thing we were thinking of. Like the president is here on top there, parliament is there making their legislations. We have local governments. So for my ideal situation for Jen is this. Laikipia, she should be looking for a way for the county to get more resources to do those things, but not to have president to come from Nairobi all the way to Laikipia just to look for an offense. For me, that sounds like we have a new constitution, but we lead with the old constitution, which is not the thing we had in mind. Like idea was, we have people just stop there at the executive, everything, but the local government, they do their things. So this kind of president has to come. Like I come from Kitui South. I've been there, like, I don't need to see Ruto there. I need things to work there. Personally, I don't need the president Ruto.
Thank you, Cephas.
Yeah.
Point made. Let's take a break. We come back shortly. It's 23 minutes to 10. We're having a conversation with Jen Kagiri, who is the Laikipia woman rep, ahead of the president's tour of Mount Kenya. That starts tomorrow, and it starts in Laikipia. And she's saying there are very many things that the president is going to be doing there. You will bear with her. She has a bit of a Homer, which she got in New York. She just had to throw that one in. Back shortly. Good morning.
We're back, of course, fixing the nation one conversation at a time. We're in studio with Laikipia Women Rep, of course, Jane Kagiri, discussing this wish list of Mount Kenya. How realistic is it? And what do we give in exchange for our wish lists to be, given? Santa, he comes at a cost. It's not always free for all. And I was looking at our comments on YouTube, and Amana Cottages says, will Kenya ever get out of government manipulation development? The MP is manipulated, and to her, nothing else will work except through the president. Haya. That's a great question.
And even going back into what Cephas was saying in the call just before the break,
right.
Saying, look, his first vote was to vote for yes, the draft constitution. It was promulgated because he understood it and he saw, all right, what we are doing here is we are devolving power. As the late Otieno Kajwang would say, we are devolving power. Removing it from that centralized place where we have the president is there, say all, do all, everything all. And saying that we shall take it to the counties. And then we shall have a strong parliament, legislature that checks the executive. And an executive that has its job, its work cut out at national level, at county level. And he was saying, what you should be doing is advocating for more money to go to those devolved units, so that then the local units can also then check their executives at the local level. And you at the national level, you are doing the job of checking and making sure that, okay, so you are elected on this platform, and this is the plan that you've brought before us in Parliament. It's called the Budget Policy Statement and all the other plans for Parliament. And you agree with them or you check, and once you vote yes, the next level is following up on implementation. Not coming to say, but you see, Mr. President, you need to come and see with your own two eyes. That is all software, Jen.
Eric, again, I repeat, even to the caller, when we all voted for the 2010 Constitution, we hoped it was an ideal situation. Today, we are looking at a 5-point-something trillion debt. As much as we want to say we have the resources, we do not have as a government. Resources to fit us all, it is not there. And that is why I said I allowed the caller to call me anything, desperate, whatever, but I will be desperate for the people of Laikipia, for them to receive what is rightfully theirs, and for them to be prioritized in the midst of the lean budget, that their priority has to come up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is the job of the MP.
Yes.
And we've all agreed.
Yes.
The only issue here is that you are expecting the president to put you up on his radar. And that is what even the callers are saying. That should not be the case.
That should not be the case.
My issue has been in the radar because I have a representative in the National Assembly.
Yes.
Or at the County Assembly. Ends there. You take my issue to the County Assembly. Use the powers that you have as a legislature to make sure that the executive heeds my call. Even the issue of debt speaks largely to the failure of our National Assembly. When we said we have a huge debt, so now we don't have money, where was Parliament when all these debts were being, when now you're saying that we should now look at our proper register of our debts? Come on. Why don't we have that register of our debt? Why don't we know what we borrowed, where the money went?
And if you look at the Hansard, Eric, when I got into this parliament, that was one of the first statements I made in the House.
2.5 years ago.
That was 2.5 years ago,
okay.
Demanding that we should have known the books of account when we came into parliament. Because like now today, you'd sit here and hold me to task on the debt situation. But you need to hold me to task telling me from the day you walked into that parliament, Jane, the debt was at this amount. Why is it at this amount today? That is what I should be answering to.
Okay, but so why is it at the amount it is at today?
No, but what I would want to claim, Eric, is that you and I are not in the correct situation, the correct position of this debt situation. And I'll tell you why. Like now, if there's one thing we should appreciate about the Kenya Kwanza government, is that we have been able to restructure, repay, and reorganize our debt. If we had been defaulted on any of these debts, today our shilling would be at 200 shillings against the dollar. Today, Eric, nobody would want even to look at anything about Kenya. But thank God we've been able to reorganize those debts, and today we can continue progressing as a country the way we should. But that said, in future we have to ensure that any outgoing president, or even if we're going to an election, the president leaves when they have stated, this is the much we borrowed between this period to this period. The next maturing loan is coming up on this
Why
date.
In future? Jen,
no.
Last year the government borrowed billions, hundreds of billions of shillings in an infrastructure bond.
Yes.
Okay? Does Parliament know which specific infrastructure projects this government has borrowed for?
Probably not.
Was it a Eurobond or a infrastructure?
No, IFB here, Kenya, local. Local borrowing, IFB. And you've borrowed at 18% from the local market. Does Parliament know these are the specific infrastructure projects for which we borrowed and which the money is going?
That's something I'll check, Eric.
Brings back to the question, Parliament, and Parliament just being like this. That monkey see, monkey do.
You mentioned earlier that you said President Ruto is a listening president, but I want to go back to an InfoTrack poll that said what I think 37% of Kenyans have absolutely no trust in President Ruto. We've seen different numbers, but there's just basically a feeling of mistrust, not listening. And I'm asking that to almost counter what you said. Maybe you have, because of the proximity you enjoy, perhaps you have a different understanding. Kenyans largely don't feel like he's a president that listens or understands them. So speaking to that, one, and two, just what kind of temperature do you anticipate ahead of this visit tomorrow? Are people already saying, we don't want to see him, we don't want to hear him? Are others saying, we welcome him? Is it mixed? What are people saying on the ground ahead of this visit? But first, speak to the fact that Kenyans do not feel that they can trust the president and the deputy president.
Janet, I want to take you back to something we call Vision 2030. If we look at Vision 2030, we are 5 years away from it. And in this Vision 2030, we had the socio-economic and political pillar. Under the social pillar is where we still have about the affordable housing, is where we have the universal health coverage. We come again to the 2010 Constitution. If you listen to ourselves, and I'm sure even you, wherever you were at a few years ago, we are Kenyans who always condemn that we are a country which does very good documents, puts them up in shelves for them to gain dust. Today we are 5 years to Vision 2030. Here comes in a president who decides he'll do things different from how they have ever been done. That here is Vision 2030 coming. We had planned all this in that Vision 2030. It must be implemented. We have the Kenyan Constitution. This is what it dictates. We have to implement it. Of course, in fact, recently the president said there are things that would make you very unpopular, but eventually they'll make you popular when people realize what was the thought behind it. So I believe in this situation, it is, again, you are doomed if you do, you are doomed if you don't. I'll give you another example of police units where they live. We've always had features on NTV, features on all media stations showing us how badly our police officers live. Here again comes under the affordable housing program, we have institutional housing, putting up good houses for our police officers everywhere. Today, again, people would want to say, you are not listening, you are doing things by yourself. Again, who was the person who complained about the dilapidated housing for our police officers? It was us Kenyans. I'll give you the third example. Many a times when there are floods in Nairobi, you'll hear, of course, the Ministry of Interior tell us we've allocated each household 10,000 shillings for them to move near the water, to move away from the water bodies. And they'll tell us we've given 50,000 households. So you think 50,000, small number, 10,000, small number. When you do your math, that is 5 billion shillings. 5 billion shillings of your taxpayers' money. Are you comfortable for every year 5 billion shillings to keep being dished out to people for them to move away from water masses? Yet it is money which could be put together, put up good houses for them not to be in the same situation the following year. So for me, what I would want to say is sometimes it may look like you're not listening, but again, why are you called a leader? Because you are expected to see something that we do not see. Or you are supposed to understand things better than we understand them. So in this situation, I would think that is why maybe at a point Kenyans feel like maybe is the president listening or not listening. But for me, I would want to drive us all back to where it began. We are the ones who spoke. We are the ones who said we have to consider housing for our police officers. We are the ones who spoke. We said our country needs to do ABCD. It is now time that is happening. And as I conclude on that point, I would want to give a very good example that sometimes when we're in urban areas, we tend not to understand what's happening on the ground. I give a very good example, like many times I hear people saying, oh, let's go back to NHIF. Then I look at a county like mine of Laikipia. With NHIF, the approved hospitals were, I think, Rumuruti, Nanyuki, and Nyahururu. That required a person in between any of those areas to commute by matatu, go to the hospital, get treatment, and then come back home. Under SHA, where we have started from the level 1 hospital, from the level 1 treatment, where we have moved from having 29,000 CHPs to around 107,000 CHPs, today I meet old women who tell me, the CHP visited my house, gave me Panadol, and told me I need to be checked my sugar. This is a lady who maybe would have slept one night, not woken up the following day, because she doesn't even realize that she has a sugar problem. Today, they are getting treatment in their own houses. If it gets worse, she's referred to a dispensary. A dispensary which she can walk, get treatment, get back to her house, and then continue with her day's work. She has saved on bus fare, she has saved on time. The third thing I would want also to mention in regards to all this, the system that we approved, and sometimes I worry when I hear my colleagues say they don't know about SHA, they don't know about CHI, I don't know what they call it. Because these are laws that we passed in the year 2023 in Parliament. So in fact, sometimes I say when they come and tell you that, you need to ask them, were you in Parliament that day, or did you not know what you were passing? Because when we come to like the Social Health Insurance Act, it is something that many people would not connect with in urban areas. Like now, I'll give you an example. In Laikipia North, we have so many of my elderly people suffering from cataract. Under NHIF, there was no eye coverage. So these people have suffered with their eyes. Now they're up for operations to remove the cataract. But picture from today onwards, where they're covered by SHA, where they can get treatment on their eyes, that is something that we are going to take away from. You go to the villages, you find so many of our people don't even have teeth. Because again, dental was never covered. Today, dental is covered. They can go to these dispensaries, they can go get the treatment, and somebody can be told, you don't need to be removed your teeth, you actually need that tooth to be filled. So these are the many things that sometimes you may look at a situation and think, why are you people not listening? But when you go deeper, 70% of Kenyans are not the ones who go to the big hospitals. 70% of Kenyans are the ones who go to the small hospitals.
When you go to Laikipia today, and I'm sure you do, you go to Laikipia quite often, and you engage with your people. Are they happy with SHA?
I can say yes and no. And I'll tell you, in regards to yes, I'll give you a very quick example. I visited a place called Morocco. And I told my people, because it's good to explain to people as it is, I told them, if you buy bar soap, you are charged tax on it. If you fuel your boda, you're charged tax on it. So they listened. Then as I was explaining to them why they need to register for SHA, because that tax is what is catering for other people, a woman raised her hand up, said, this leg of mine was operated and charged 300,000 and SHA paid for me. So I told my people, please clap for yourselves, because it is you people who paid for this lady. So they laughed and they clapped for themselves. Then I told them, the question I would want to ask yourself, is if it was you who was in this situation, would you be equally covered? Of course, the answer is no, as long as you're not SHA registered. So up to that point, many of my people tell me SHA is working. But when it comes to the other side, and I ask these ones who have not registered, where they've not registered, they keep telling me that we have the challenge of the means testing. And the means testing will always, and this is an example I keep giving, that in a place like Nanyuki, we have Majengo, where the floor is concrete, the walls may be concrete, and the roofing is mabati. When you answer to those questions, it is assumed you're a very rich person. Yet what they have forgotten is this person is renting and even maybe sharing that room with somebody else. Then you'll also find in a different area, somebody will be asked, oh, what kind of housing are you living in? They say mud, makuti, what? Yet, maybe the person has 10,000 head of cattle. So him is assumed to be poor by virtue that he's living in a mud house. So what my people have been telling me is, why don't we put a standard rate on SHA registration? The way it was at NHIF, as long as you're not employed, as long as you're elderly, let's just have a flat rate for everybody. And that way, people will not have the challenge of registering.
So save for the means testing, they're happy with SHA?
Save for the means testing, they're happy with SHA, but there's also the challenge of outpatient, where in some cases, my people tell me they've gone to a hospital and the hospital has told them they cannot be treated there. But again, Eric, this is a wider conversation that we need to have as a country. When we ask ourselves, in fact, this is something I recently learned, that prior to having SHA, if you ever walked to a hospital and you saw it's written NHIF certified, those hospitals were all entitled to something called capitation. Whether a patient comes in or a patient does not come in, they were entitled to capitation. Today, SHA is telling you, if you treat 10 patients, you're only going to be paid for 10 patients. So even looking at business economics, if it was you and I, would you support a system that considers the work you do, or a system that used to allow you maybe, maybe not, and you still get paid?
So why are people not happy with SHA?
So, and that is one good example I've given you. So as an institution, somebody may not be supportive of SHA because they're wondering this is a more difficult way of making money, whereas before it was only required to be certified and I could receive my capitation. Here comes a system that is demanding for this. Number two, this SHA system also demands that if you are a doctor, Tuesday you should be reading you are at, Dr. Jane Kagiri today is at Nyahururu Hospital. I cannot also be serving at my clinic on the same day. Again, is this a system that is supportive of how I would make money or not? Number three, let's also remember, we used to have NHIF scandals. Today, nobody wants to remember those scandals. But again, here comes SHA, which is telling you, your bill is 300 million. Please let us peruse and see how we got to that bill. Nobody, no institution would be happy with an institution that is telling you, again, I have to go back to the books. So you'll tell me...
You've mentioned hospital owners, you've mentioned doctors.
Yeah.
Why are people not happy with SHA? The non-doctors, non-owners of hospitals, the ordinary citizens.
And that
why are they not registering for SHA?
Eric, if we'd go back to the registration at NHIF, the registration at NHIF used to be, I think, at 8 million. Today with the SHA, I think we're at 16 million. We've already doubled the numbers. So sometimes we could keep asking ourselves when people registering, people have registered, and we're hoping for the numbers to grow. Because for me, I always share a personal case where I lost my dad in 2023 to cancer, and his bill was at 10 million shillings. So I kept wondering, if I did not have friends, if I did not have people to support me, what would I have done at that particular point? The fact that people came through for me is what makes me comfortably accept to be deducted almost 30,000 shillings every month from my payslip to ensure that somebody else is well catered for in universal health coverage. So again, when you say about SHA, I would want to say we need to improve our communication on SHA to make our people understand that SHA is for their benefit.
Okay, I think we'll leave it there. We'll be hearing definitely a lot more about this tour, about the President's tour to Mount Kenya region. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of the politicking and sideshows. I don't know. Not preempting, but just guessing based on the trends. Thank you very much, Jane, for coming to Fixing the Nation.
You're welcome.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
So are we getting the girls? Are the girls working today? Amanda Eid.
I took a show, actually.
How can you Monica them on? Winnie.
What's coming up next?
They're not working today.
Okay. Enjoy the rest of the programming. We'll be back tomorrow morning from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. We've been hosting Jane Kagiri, who is the woman rep for Laikipia County, ahead of this tour of the presidents, Eric Latif, Janet Bogwa, and Mariam Bishar. Have a lovely one. Tomorrow, 6 a.m. Have a date with us.